This is the second video in the series we're doing for the Carnival of Weaning. In the first video, we talked about what mothers did to prepare themselves and their children for the weaning process. In this video, some of my favorite blogging friends are going to talk about what support they had, what support they wish they had, and maybe give you some ideas to think about for when your child starts his or her own weaning process.
I felt like I had an adequate amount of support throughout the weaning process. My husband was very understanding of how emotional and hormonal the whole process was. My mom was supportive as well. The only thing that I wish that I would have had was to know another mom whose child had suddenly weaned. I didn't know anybody else, and so I felt kind of alone in that. Usually it's the mom who directs weaning, or at least introduces the idea of it to a child, whereas I felt like my daughter was the one leading the way in our weaning experience. And with someone who you can't really talk to or have a conversation with, that was difficult. So I would have liked to have known another mom who had gotten through it and survived and made it to the other side of weaning.
So I haven't weaned yet, but as I'm looking to figure out what I want to do about weaning, the support I've had has been mostly my husband, who's been very supportive throughout this 4 3/4 years of breastfeeding so far, and now breastfeeding a second child. And he has never suggested that we should stop when we weren't ready, or he's just never made me feel pressure in any way. And I know he'd be supportive if I wanted to wean too. The other group that's been really important to me is the mothers I know through Natural Parents Network, the volunteers there. I was able to talk with them on chat, which we do a lot, and just get some confirmation that it's okay, what I'm feeling, and that it would be okay if I wanted to wean. I also wrote some blog posts about it and received some really lovely comments from people, just, like especially during pregnancy when it hurt a lot to nurse, that people said, you have to do what's right for you. And that, I don't know, I had felt a lot of pressure and guilt earlier, and I don't feel that as much anymore, that you're not allowed to do mother-led weaning. And, which is great if that works for you. And I think for a lot of people it does work to do child-led weaning. But for me now, coming on 5 years old, it's, he's not stopping. So, and I know he would eventually. He's not going to be 15 and still nursing, but the point is that, I feel a lot of nursing aversion now, and so I'm feeling like it's about time to start thinking about weaning. So, anyway, it's just nice to have that confirmation from other people and support from people who've gone through it before, and, to be told that you're not a bad mother.
I had the same support through Weaning that I did through breastfeeding, which is my husband and my friends who are also breastfeeding, and also support groups like La Leche League primarily. A lot of weaning resources are created for babies, so they say things like drop one feeding at a time, maybe every 3 days, and replace it with formula or express breast milk. And that just doesn't work when you have a 2.5-year-old. That's not how it goes. And a lot of the things that I did read about weaning toddlers, like How Weaning Happens is one book I read, or Mothering Your Nursing Toddler discussed weaning. They didn't really have a lot of what I felt were actually kind of succinct tips or approaches to use. But I think also the important thing to recognize is that toddlers are very individual. You've already created a strong relationship with them. And so weaning, like everything else, is going to take its own course with each child and with each mother. And, and it will change from day to day, just like everything else in parenting does.
Both times I had the full support of my husband. He was amazing, and he was totally supportive of me breastfeeding and letting them self-wean. And my mother was also very, very supportive. None of them ever said anything. Actually, none of my family ever said anything, when are you going to wean or anything like that. So I had full support from my family. And I also had the support of my naturopath with my second baby. When my son weaned early, she was very supportive and encouraging to help me get, come to terms with that. And because we tried everything to get him to try again. We thought maybe he was going through a nursing strike, but he never did nurse again after that. So she was very supportive to me as well. Looking back, I guess I sometimes wonder if I should have tried harder to get my son to breastfeed again. But I know in my heart that I did everything I could, and we tried everything, and that's what he was ready for. He was actually talking a little bit at the time, and he would flat out say no. When I tried to latch him on, he would say, "No, Mama, no." So, you can't force a baby to breastfeed.
At the time, the only support that I had while I was going through the weaning process was through Facebook. I don't have any in real life friends or close relatives that are breastfeeders, so I had to reach out through my network of friends on Facebook and talk with them while I was going through the process. And they really helped me because they all had really varied experiences with weaning, and they were at different stages with nursing and have children of different ages and different experiences. So it was really important to me that I got their perspective when I was going through this process. I really do wish that I had more in real life support. My husband, he was very supportive of nursing and everything like that, but at the same time he wasn't as into the extended nursing as I was, and it's just different from a man's perspective. My mother-in-law did not nurse her children. My mom did nurse both myself and my brother, but she lives across the country, so I really didn't have that day-to-day contact with people in real life that were able to help me with the process or talk to me about their experiences.
My husband was incredibly supportive, as was my mom and my friends. They knew that it was a bittersweet moment for me, even though my son really didn't seem to care one way or another, but I felt kind of forced to wean because of a very difficult pregnancy. I was very, very sick, and my body had reached its physical limit. So when my son pretty much decided to stop nursing, it was hard for me. So my friends were very supportive. They left me all kinds of encouraging notes and texted me, and a few of my friends called me and they told me, that's such a great thing that you've done for your son. You've nursed him for 2.5 years. You have nothing to feel bad about. They were just really supportive and understanding of everything, and that was a wonderful, wonderful blessing.